Welcome to our Meet the Experts documentary panel. We are joined by Samantha Stark from Framing Britney Spears, J. Clay Tweel from Heaven's Gate, The Cult of Cults, Cecilia Peck and Inbal Lessner from Seduced, Inside the NXIVM Cult, Tom Beard from The Year Earth Change, and Jeff Orlowski from The Social Dilemma. Thank you all for being here. So I hope this is not too heady to start with, but what is the most rewarding part about being a documentary filmmaker? Cecilia?
I think being able to communicate stories that hopefully will enlighten or educate or make an impression on someone who watches it. I know with ours, there's always an outreach component, and two of the survivors from our film are Tabby and Naomi, who both have website design and coding skills, built a website, seduceddocumentary.com, where anybody who is in a cult trying to get out, or a family member who has someone in, can go and connect with any of the women in our series or the experts, including Dr. Lalich, who we shared with Clay and Rachel Bernstein and Stephen Hassan and Rick Ross. So I think for us, being able to make sure the work extends past, past the airing of the documentary and can be of help to people is, one of the things that drives us, motivates us.
I'll jump in. I think for me, in trying to, experiencing the last year that we have in the pandemic, I've just had a newfound appreciation for being able to go out into the world and travel and talk to people and understand different perspectives from my own, and try to then relay those perspectives to an audience, and just sort of like, hopefully at the base of it all, try to bring greater understanding and just trying to bring those perspectives to light. That's, for me, that's the most rewarding at this point.
I'm happy to chime in. I love that documentary film sort of gives you the license to study anything you want to study, or to explore any subject matter. And you can pick a project or figure out a project that you want to work on, and usually it's years of your life, depends on the time scale, but you are committed and you're learning, and you can, the camera gives you license to talk to a lot of people, as was just said. So I've always just loved that curiosity that it allows and invites to go deep into a subject and explore it.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, Jeff, as well. I mean, huge privilege just to be able to really get deep into a subject and engage with people on all sides of an argument or discussion. And then, after a couple of years, sort of switch to something completely different and get deep into that as well. But somehow pull together some of the common strands, whether that's about the craft and storytelling or it's about the subjects themselves. But having those kind of deep immersion experiences are, really special.
Being able to, something that I love to do in interviews is to keep going until something truly surprises me, like deep down in my core surprises me. And being able to share that with other people, these were my assumptions about another human being, and I'm going to tell you why my assumptions were wrong, is so satisfying to me, because I think we assume things about each other all the time. And so to be able to explore and talk to people until I relate to them, until I get where they're coming from, or I think I do at least, it's so satisfying. And I can't believe that I get to do it as a job. It's incredible.
In normal years, we'll be in film festivals right now, and community screenings, college screenings, whatnot. And, my favorite is to sit in the back of a theater watching the film or, plays, and seeing where people respond to the little joke I was able to sneak in, or move, become moved or uncomfortable, or, to really feel how people react and get impacted. And I think this year I was left to follow Twitter when the show came out, and but that was really interesting how people really engaged and responded, and journalists started looking at it, and was really lively conversation about our show, and it came out. And then during the, I think around the time our third episode aired, Keith Raniere, the cult leader, was sentenced to 120 years in prison. And so that, got a lot of people talking again. And so that's been, for me to see how the show or the film plays and touches people, impacts them, as people said, changes the way they think about this topic is really the best part.
Mm-hmm. Well, some of your films cover like ongoing stories, like ever evolving. Have you ever considered, not just for these films, but any of your projects, like doing follow-ups at some point, or do you just kind of move on to your next thing after you're done with one project? Samantha?
Oh, I'm all in, obsessed. I was up until 2:30 in the morning last night looking at court documents. I think with our film, it feels like it just cracked us open. It feels like step one. It just, allowed you to relate to Britney Spears in a different way. But there's so much more going on with this conservatorship and the system that enables it. And so it would be a dream to be able to do a follow-up. We're still reporting. I work for the New York Times, so I'm lucky enough that they are allowing me to do that now.
Yeah, I think that we dedicate. Oh, go ahead, Cecilia.
Just to fit all your material into your format, even if you have multiple episodes. So there's always great scenes that you leave on the cutting room floor, and then you have a lot of expertise. And for us, people have reached out asking, from other groups, other similar cults, who would like to shed light on them. So it's definitely always tempting to go on and do more work in that area. And I would love to see follow-ups from everybody here.
Yeah, I think
I was just, Tom, I was just going to say, like, for me personally, I think I dedicate so much time, and a lot of us dedicate so much time and bandwidth in our brain to figure out these stories and how to best present them, that you sort of never let go of it completely. And always, I know me personally, I all the documentaries I've worked on, I still track what's going on, everything from like how the teenage magicians that I followed 12 years ago are doing right now, or like, what's going on with some of the sociologists we interviewed for Heaven's Gate. It's all the same. I just am going to be probably for the rest of my life interested in some capacity in following them.
Yeah, I think you're right, Clay. You do, because you become this kind of mini specialist in that area. You kind of can't quite give it up at the end of the project, and also I think you develop all these really close relationships with people in that area, and really special relationships. And there's a huge amount of trust in making a film, isn't there? There's just a huge amount of trust that goes in all directions with the contributors, with consultants, with the rest of the team, and you carry that forward. And lots of stories are then evolving anyway, and that news filters back into you through those relationships, and the relationships hold over time, hopefully. So yeah, I'd love to go back and do some again. I have done it once with a group in Vanuatu, and a very remote island in the South Pacific. I've made two series there, and I'm still in touch with them now, and would love to do another one.
Realize I was muted. Our team, we take a lot of the footage that we've worked with in the making of the film, and we try to work on bonus clips and extra material, as I'm sure many filmmakers do. And you're sitting on this treasure trove of content. So can we create more continuation of the story that we can then release and keep the story going and keep the conversation going? So that's always a fun and exciting opportunity.
I was part of a sequel a couple of years ago called Autism, the sequel, where they went back and followed the 5 children that were featured in HBO's Autism, the musical, and went back to see how they are as young adults. It's always such a fascinating way to revisit something you were so close to. And so, yes, as Cecilia said, I think we're deep in to this cult world and are in touch with all the major experts in this area. A lot of people have reached out to us. So that's definitely something that is continues to be close to our hearts and in our orbit right now. So we'll see if that pans out to be our next project.
Oftentimes, you don't have footage of something that's being discussed, and you need, usually, there are illustrations for, to show the viewer, what's happening, or, some sort of like reenactment. So how do you guys go about creating these like supplemental footage, so to speak, for the viewer and making sure it strikes the right tone? Like Clay, you have these like UFO illustrations in your series.
Yeah, for us, it was we knew from the start that I knew from the start I wanted to do illustrations of some kind and animations, but the tone of the show was also very serious, and so we spent a lot of time trying to dial in the aesthetics of it so that it didn't feel cartoony in any way. I think the animations you guys had in Seduced are also like just tonally right on point and so good, and so. Trying to find that aesthetic was important to us, but we're also trying to come up with a set of rules. Like can we come up with a way that it doesn't feel like we're just cutting to this animation arbitrarily, but it's really taking you inside a character's mind and their point of view and sort of like a dreamscape vision of what they're remembering. And so for me, that's what sort of feels the best, is if you can come up with some semblance of rules to have that type of visual element in the show.
Yeah, there was a long development process to our animation sequences. We worked with a wonderful artist, Elise Kelly, and she really brought even more layers to the story. So it wasn't just the scenes that we didn't have, footage or photos for, but it became these emotional moments where we got a sneak peek into the memories of India and the other characters, and how she's struggling to remember, and how almost a visual manifestation of her trauma. And those, if you follow the 4 episodes, those start to get darker and darker as she moves into the kind of deep indoctrination and enslavement. And the very last one is when she walks out of the courtroom into like a white field exterior, and that's kind of where we bid farewell to the animation. But it was a long process of very intense creative development and figuring out really how every single frame has to land just perfectly and not feel pornographic or exploitative, and really make the most of every expensive animated second.
It was my first time working with animation, and I'll just say, Jeff, before you talk, figuring out that workflow was completely different than any other doc work that I've done. But you really have to have it like pretty dialed in to the second of what you need, and slot that into your edit. So that was new and fun, but like a challenge for sure.
Yeah, I love the creative challenge of what's the best way to visualize this concept or this idea. Animation's a tool, recreation's a tool. We were using kind of a narrative dramatization with The Social Dilemma, and we had animation as well, and trying to find what's the right tone for the right spot. How do you build a consistent theme and vocabulary and language, as was said? What are the rules for how we're using this medium? And when and how can you dip in and out of it? So I think that's just between, working with an editing team and a writing team and the animators, it's just such a fun place to explore and to figure out, everybody has great ideas to contribute around how do you make it convey the concepts that you're hoping to. I love
it. I could say something about like the visual style. We didn't have animation, but we did kind of create these backdrops to interview everyone in front of. So for this, the fans, we had an entire wall of fake roses, and for everyone else, we had these like hedge walls that we would carry around with us and put different colors of flowers on. And we wanted that to, since we filmed this whole thing during COVID, there was very little action happening. So almost the entire piece is just interviews and archival footage. So we wanted the interviews to be purposeful and speak to, give you more. And so I had been looking at Britney's Instagram so much, and it's so much of it has just like covered in roses, and it's in this backyard outside this California lush backyard. So we wanted to be reflective of her Instagram, and we also wanted you to question what was real and what wasn't. Like, are those real plants? Are they not? And so at opportune times we could pull out and show you that it was a set. And so that's kind of a visual thing we did.
Yeah, interesting. I haven't had much chance to on projects, or I haven't chosen to use animation. I'd love to. It sounds like an incredibly creative process. What I've played with a bit and used a bit in this the Year Earth Changed is using archive material, but less for its kind of straight up narrative purpose and a bit more for its kind of emotive purpose, and just using archive shots for their imagery and the emotions that portrays. And it was interesting doing that for the Year Earth Changed, and looking at a lot of the material of empty spaces that were shot around the world, some of which we were in touch with the drone operators and people that were shooting some as archive material, library material, but thinking, okay, how do we unify this, and how do we bring it together as something that has an emotional power and also a visual coherence across the film. And in the end, we went for this kind of idea of pushing down streets around the world and just spent an awful lot of time in the edit piecing together shots from all over the world and trying to get a fluid feel to it and a kind of emotional response to that archive.
Well, it was great speaking with all of you. Thank you so much for your time, and congratulations on all your projects. They were all wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.